So should you get Flins right now or just wait for Nefer? That's probably a question so many people are asking right now. Both of them are going to be not cried lunar main DPSs, and they do share a lot of similarities. In this video I'll be comparing them and then finally telling you which one of them should you get if you need a main DPS, Nefer or Flins. But before we continue with that though, if you're trying to get either of them, I would recommend getting your Genesis crystals from LDshop.gg. LDshop is a cheap, fast, and safe game top-up website that offers top-ups for many games, including Genshin Impact. As you guys can see here, these are the offers they have for Genshin, and all of them are cheaper than the official game store, starting off from 15% cheaper and even more. For example, we can see that 3,280 Genesis crystals offer. It costs $50 in the official game store, but here it only costs $39.10. That's 10.89 or more than 21% saved by using LDshop. They also have many other things like bundles, character outfits, Welkins, and stuff like that. But yeah, when you want to buy, just click on the offer you'd like to choose. For example, I'm gonna buy the 300 crystals offer. You only need to enter your server region and user ID. Obviously, make sure they're right, and then click on top up. And then you just choose your payment method, and then enter your details, and then just pay. Shortly after that, you'll just receive the crystals in your account. And right now, if you use my link, you'll get a 15% off coupon and also an extra 5% off. That can save you up to $50. They also have more cool things on the website. For example, if you spend more than $80, that can allow you to win a free Welkin. You can go and check it out yourself. Click the link in the description or the pinned comment and top up now. Alright, so back to the video, I'm going to be comparing Flins and Nefer. I'm going to compare them from a couple of different angles, and the first one is going to be playstyle. For their playstyles, obviously Flins is going to be just a lunar charged, basically normal main DPS when it comes to it. At the end of the day, he's just going to be your normal main DPS, where you're going to be just normal attacking, and that's basically it. Yes, his damage is going to be lunar charge damage. You're going to need lunar charged buffers and stats and stuff like that. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but in general, when it comes to his playstyle, like if you have his team, you have him built, you have everything ready, and how would you play Flins? It's going to be pretty easy. It's one of the simplest characters to build or play. Just normal attack and then burst when you can, and that's it. When it comes to Nefer, I do think she's going to be a little different. Not that different. She's mainly just going to be a charge attack main DPS. At the end of the day, you're just going to skill and then want to do your charge attacks, and then skill again, do your charge attacks, and that's it. But she does have a lot of like stacks that you need to make sure you have, because they're going to buff your charge attacks, and if you miss out on them, then they're going to tank your damage, which is not good. I would say they're going to be a little easy to get, because usually they're just going to happen naturally throughout your rotation, but you want to make sure you create proper rotations for Nefer. There's also animation canceling. From what I've seen and what I've heard right now from her gameplays, I do think you need to charge attack animation cancel for you to like maximize your rotations and DPS, and that's also something that's usually you don't want, or at least like it's going to make it harder to play. But yeah, in general, she's not too hard to play. She's not like one of those characters that you need to be worrying about like many things. She's not the hardest, but she's definitely hard to play a little bit, or at least harder than Flins in my opinion. A lot of like stacks you need to worry about, a bit of animation canceling, your bursts needs to be placed like at a certain time of the rotation, or else the animation is also going to take long. I think I even heard some people saying that using her burst is not going to be worth it because of like how long the animation is going to take. I cannot confirm that. I haven't really done my own tests about her yet, but in general, she's definitely more complex than Flins to play. So yeah, in that category, I would say Flins wins for sure, and I would give him that. Now moving on to the point that most people care about, probably just gonna be strength levels or DPS or damage or whatever, or like which of them is gonna be dealing the most damage. So here in this comparison, we're basically just gonna be talking about their best teams or their optimal teams, and we're gonna talk about that more in a little bit in a different section. But for right now, we're just gonna compare their best teams. If we're talking about Flins' best team, probably you'd want something like Flins, and then let's say Nefer, and then like Sucrose, and then let's say Hydro, like Ino for example. Probably you'd want to use Ino. This is his basic best team, and probably the only team that you'd usually want to use if you have every single character here. I did make a teams video before about him if you want to check it out, but this is basically his only main team. So in this team, usually Flins is going to be dealing around like 105k, and that's what it's usually going to be around. Obviously, it's going to depend on like which builds your team is going to be having, which constellations, weapons, and stuff like that, but usually that team is going to be around like 100k, I would say, to 105k, which is definitely like top tier DPS. Basically, it's gonna be around, you know, the best DPSs in the game for sure. It's an S tier DPS level. Now moving on to Nefer, if we're talking about her best teams, which is usually gonna be like Nefer, Lauma, someone like Naida for example, and then let's say Ino too, that's gonna be her best team. We're gonna talk about her teams in future videos, so stay tuned, but this is gonna be like her basic best team, and that team is probably gonna result in around like 112k in general. Again, it depends on the builds of your characters, which weapons you're using, chosen, which artifacts you have. So those are going to be kind of rough numbers a little bit, but usually that's something you'd want to expect, which is more than Flins' damage and their best teams. So when it comes to strength levels or damage ceiling in general, that's what I would call it. It's just damage ceiling. I think Nefer wins that at least in like the normal range, just normal constellations. I'm talking about like C0 R1 maximum or maybe C1 R1 maximum. But in general, she's going to be a little bit better than Flins, but it doesn't really matter as much. It's going to be like just marginally better. Both of them are going to be S tier DPSs in their best teams, obviously. So it's not really something you want to be concerned about. But if you still are and you care about every single number, then Nefer is going to be better than Flins in terms of like damage ceiling, in terms of like how much damage you can achieve when it's around like the same level of investment, obviously. So I think Nefer slightly wins that, but it's not going to be a huge difference. Now moving on to the most important part about this video actually, which I think is probably going to be the main decider for a lot of people here, which is going to be teams. So what I compared before, again, is going to be their best teams. But if you do not know by now, Nefer is going to be very important for Flins. Flins losing Nefer is probably going to result in around like a 20% damage loss or something like that, which is going to be a huge damage loss, obviously. And it's probably going to knock him a whole tier. He was S tier with Nefer as a main DPS, and then without Nefer, it's probably just going to be like an A tier main DPS. The new surprise though, which I think a lot of people don't know, is that Lauma is basically just going to be the same for Nefer, if not worse. Nefer losing Lauma is probably around like a 30% damage loss or more, especially at the latest like version. That's the third one when I'm talking right now, or at least when I'm recording this. So Nefer without Lauma is definitely going to be as bad as Flins without Nefer, even worse probably. It is worse actually, that's for sure. So yeah, as I said before, obviously, you know, both of them without Lauma or Nefer are probably going to be around like 80k DPS, which is like an A tier made DPS. They're already not S tier anymore. But when it comes to comparing them and how restricted their teams are, I think Flins can't survive without Nefer. It's definitely a huge loss, but it's definitely not as bad as Nefer without Lauma. So I would give this point to Flins. Their teams in general are not that flexible. I think team flexibility, Lauma is probably more flexible, so it doesn't really matter as much. But when it comes to their like best friends, Flins can do much better without Nefer than Nefer can do without Lauma. So when it comes to like the final ranking, you're gonna have like Nefer with Lauma. It's gonna be the best case scenario, as I explained before. That's her best team, and it's gonna be dealing like 112k DPS, something like that. Super huge. After that, obviously comes Flins with Nefer, but then after that is gonna come Flins without Nefer, and then finally Nefer without Lauma. So even though when it comes to ceilings, Nefer is gonna be better than Flins, when it comes to their teams, like free-to-play teams or just their teams without their best supports, Flins is gonna be better. So you guys need to keep this in mind. So yeah, now that we talked about all of that, for the final conclusion, which one of them should you get? So obviously, when it comes to Nefer or Lauma, if you have Nefer and not Lauma, then you should go for Flins, that's for sure. If you have Lauma and not Nefer, then obviously you should go for Nefer. If you have both of them, it comes down to what you value the most, honestly. If you value just more damage, even though it's a little bit, then you probably can go for Nefer. But if you value more like ease to play, for example, and stability and stuff like that, then Flins might also be a good option. Their damage is going to be around the same. So in that case, you have the choice, obviously. It's not going to be that different. When it comes to meta, they're going to be about the same, and you probably should go for which character you like the most, which element you need the most on your account, and stuff like that, better than just thinking about them as individual main DPSs specifically. If you don't have nor Lauma nor Nefer, then in that case, going for Flins is probably going to be better in my opinion. He wins the damage contest, and he also wins the ease to play contest, so he's going to be the logical meta option if you don't have neither Nefer or Lauma, obviously. I think he's a little bit more like free to play friendly, if you can say that. So yeah, this is the final Wishing roadmap, I guess. You guys can see right now, pretty simple, too long didn't read. If you skip to this part from the beginning, I don't like you, but there you go. At least leave a like. But yeah, tell me what you guys are getting in the comments. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.